Good morning. Hope you're well. Yet another amazing day. It's been quite astonishing. Uh, I'm getting bored with this sun and heat and loveliness. I hope you're managing to get out there. I hope you're managing to get those 5 minutes every day. I hope you're staying interested enough to do it. Or thinking, "Oh, this is boring," because if we're not interested, we don't see it of value, then of course we're not going to carry on. But there's other reasons that we might not carry on, and that's going to be down to your beliefs and the concepts you have about the game. And what I'm doing inadvertently is probably challenging them, and therefore it's far easier to put up a barrier and say, no, when this stuff doesn't work, when you go and try and explore this with a golf ball and it doesn't work, it'll be very, very easy for you to go back to what you believe in. And to change those beliefs is a long term thing, it really is. But so we've got to keep it at the reality of the golf ball does what it's told, the golf club tells it, I tell the club. That's not negotiable. So we're trying to get better at telling the club. So we probably need to pay attention to it if we're going to tell it anything, and explore if we're going to discover. So those beliefs and concepts I had as a young professional, and they were getting the basics right, they were fault fixing, they were blah blah blah, whatever they were. And the logic was, if I did that, I'd be a better golfer. But I wasn't. I had all the basics right. Looked pretty right anyway. My golf swing was kind of pretty, but I was standing over the ball not knowing where it would go, and that seemed strange. Hence the reason that eventually, when I reached that kind of rock bottom place, it was easy for me to question my beliefs and leave them behind. Albeit they weren't for disappearing, and it took me a long time to quell the thoughts in my head that said, "You crazy? Why don't you just go back to what you know?" And that was a very alluring thought to go back there. Anyway, some of the things I would also like you to consider would be that why did why did my attention get drawn towards the club? Well, that logical, the ball does what it's told, the club tells it, but it went beyond that when I explored a silly game called Pam Golf, and I was kind of messing about using my right palm as my golf club. I could use the back of my left palm hand, it wouldn't matter either. And I was moving my palm, almost like hitting some tennis shots, but I was just imagining there was a golf ball hovering up about waist height, and I was moving my palm to hit a golf ball forward, no spin, up, top spin, down, chop spin, slice spin, draw spin, whatever it was. But I did it with my eyes closed. So if you go and explore this, as crazy as this sounds, if you even sitting at your breakfast table just now watching this, just imagine there is a ball at waist height or whatever height you want it at, and the objective was to hit it high up over the fridge, but do it with your eyes closed. So make that movement. And if I then came back to you and said, okay, well done, you've hit the ball, it did go up, but it wasn't as high as it needed to be, could you then change the next outcome? Yeah. So how do you know you change the next outcome? Well, I moved my hand differently. How do you know you moved your hand differently? Well, I was paying attention to it. So when did I actually ask you to pay attention to your palm? So the reality is, I didn't ask you to pay attention to your palm. Your brain decided, well, if I don't have my eyesight to help me, I'm going to have to access new feelings. Pam was critical to this task, so I paid super attention to my palm, had an experience with my palm, and then altered the next experience by moving my palm differently to produce a new outcome. If that outcome was success, then I had a feeling of what hitting this ball over that fridge was, and I could recall it. And that was that bank of experience, that field experience that I could call upon. And then I wanted to spin the ball, so I wanted to hit it down, I wanted to hit it forward. All of the motions with my eyes closed led me to notice how much attention and awareness I had in my palm. So that led me to make little tiny things like this. So it's a wee micro driver. Same thing. I could hold it in one hand, almost like a racket, and I could make some swings again. Imagine the ball was probably now down about knee height, and the same thing, eyes closed, super awareness of the racket face, the club face, and just where the shaft was in relation to where the force needed to go, and etc. etc. It was the same experience. I just kind of moved my palm down to the end of the shaft, a couple of feet away. And I realised that, yeah, I still wanted to do that. I still wanted to pay attention to what I was doing with the club, even though that wasn't my instruction to myself or my instruction from anyone else. It was my brain deciding that's a critical factor, let's pay attention to it. And so that went on and on and on and on. So that's why, to me, this is like a default state. That's what our brain would do if we took away our sight. So even although we do have sight and we're using our sight, most of us, then we still need to be paying that attention to what the club's doing. And it is a default attention. Therefore, let's access it. And God forbid you ever did lose your sight or become blind, but if you did, you would find out that would be the only feeling that you would, the only sense that you would use. I know we would hear contacts, and that definitely helps us with the learning process, but primarily the movement of the club would be a feel thing. So that's why it is key. It is absolutely key, and we've got to keep on this track, and all your beliefs are going to be shouting and screaming at you not to do this, but hang on in there. One other thing just before I go. About 20 odd years ago, I was playing squash, hit my hand against the wall, couldn't use my 20-year-old, 30-year-old interlocking grip. Hit some shots with a 10-fingered baseball. Actually took my pinky off initially, just because I wanted to hit some shots. I couldn't put any pressure on my pinky. And the shots all went left, sorry, because that's what I've been told, that if you separated your hands, your right hand would get active and it would smother the club and the ball and it would go left. So it did. But I had no choice but the next day to do the same. I wanted to hit shots, I did it again, but the next day they didn't go as far left. And then I started to think about if I was hitting a double-handed tennis shot, the ball wouldn't go left because of the hold. You'd never interlock or overlap your hands in tennis. And from that day on, I realised that that was a belief, that was a concept, and I kind of almost lived into it. But very quickly realised I could change that. And from that day on, I've been 10-finger baseball. And I'm not suggesting you have to change, but I would definitely suggest you should explore it, because I think it's, to me, it is the only grip. Just for me, it offers more control, more power, and that's, especially a guy my size, that was important. So something to consider if you're looking for a little bit of more control and power, and who's not. But remember that all the beliefs, the concepts and the habits are going to then probably make poor shots happen initially, and then you'll just go back to, oh no, it doesn't work, that stuff that Kendall said. I think it's worth exploring further. Okay, next week we're going to be looking at other clubs and seeing if we can actually explore this with different tools. Keep at it, keep exploring, have fun, and I'll speak to you soon.